Hi, it's odeean here. This is the video for Toyworld's Swamper. Now, before I get into anything, I had a lot of delays getting this package, but when it finally got here, they've decided to wrap it in this foam, which is a little bit unusual, and I'll talk about that later on in the review, but I just want to show it like this before I open it up, because I never got a box outside wrapped in foam like that. Okay, so here's the box out of that foam packaging, and I can really see what's going on here. The plastic seems to have been pushed down like this, maybe in transit to the wholesaler, and it's been rubbing on a painted detail there just under. So you can see his little alligator spine plate, which is a painted piece. It's really been forced up against this, and it's scratched up the whole box and stripped some of the paint. Now, this seller on eBay, I paid for it, and he marked it as shipped, gave me tracking, and then about a week later he sent me an email saying, before I send it out, do you really want it because the box is screwed up? Well, I thought at that stage it's too late, it's gone out, so I just ignored the email. After a second week, he emailed me again, said I never answered him, and I just said, you know, you said that you've sent this package out, so it's a moot point, it's coming, isn't it? And he never answered, so I thought maybe something's a bit fishy with this guy, and there was probably a chance I'm never going to get the toy and just have to do a claim. But, you know, luckily it did turn up, and here it is. I'm not too unhappy about that. I mean, yeah, it would be better to not have a screwed up box and a little paint chip on the figure, but, you know, if it means that I can't have my Swamper for another couple of months, I'm more than prepared to just eat it. Swamper ships in the carton in alligator mode, alligator crocodile. I prefer it to be a crocodile. That's because here in Australia we get incredibly large crocodiles which are more awesome than an alligator. So for me this is a crocodile. He's a little bit squat and fat, but I kind of like it. I think it looks pretty cool. It's definitely not a realistic body shape, but it's cool kind of robot alligator crocodile body shape. I think this tail section looks really awesome. It's not articulated, can't do any movement, but just the way it looks, it's really a modernized G1 figure, because stuff from this period, like I never had, I think what's his name, Skullcruncher as a kid, but I did have some of those Autobot monster bots, Grotesque, I think the name of my favorite one was, the pink rat dragon thing. He looked really chunky just like this, so it's very period authentic. Now, there was a little bit of assembly required. These tail sections came on their own. You can see, like, look at this, the amount, it's a very, very tight peg. I'm almost reluctant to pull it off, it's so tight. I think that they would have been better doing one of two things. Like, they could have either given it a hexagonal hole, or maybe even put a little hole at the back that comes out the other side, because part of the problem with this is not just the friction. When you're pegging it in, it's the air getting compressed behind this rod as it pushes in, and it makes it really difficult to insert. To show you what I mean, I'll put it back in now. It's quite hard. Now, I'm applying a lot of force, so much that it's actually hurting me quite a lot in my thumb. I'm pushing so hard, the plastic is really digging into me, and you can see that it's just getting in there. Like, after an extreme amount of force, it gets that far in. I think that there's no sign at this stage that it's doing any harm to the toy, but any situation where you have to put that much force to get a peg in is bound to end up badly for at least a few people, so I think that's a bit of a mistake. Now, you could sand that down, or just maybe friction over time will wear it down, but a little bit of a bad design choice there, I think. You probably also noticed that the leg came off. That is not meant to happen, really. You can see that kind of mushroom-shaped thing there. It's meant to stay on, but it does pop off if you put a little bit too much force on it. Another bit of an odd thing I noticed as soon as I get this out of the box is that there's the faintest slight whiff of shit, basically. There's no other way to say it. Ever since I opened this package, I just get the hint of odour in the air, like something bad smelling came with this. And I'm not sure, maybe it was mould release or the air around the factory wherever it was packaged. I'm not sure what the cause of that is, but it's definitely real, very faint but real, and I don't like my toys smelling like shit. Zooming right into the face, you can see his eyes, even at close range like this, remain very dead. At first I thought they were light piped eyes, but I don't think they are. I think that's a separate gloss black plastic piece for an eye, so his eyes are intentionally black. I know it's got a clear section on top of the head, and you can actually pop this. When I got it, it was open. Maybe it's not meant to come open. It might have been just an error in manufacturing. I popped it back down, and now it doesn't want to come out. I got a feeling it's not meant to come out. But anyway, that's not light piping, and these are not clear eyes. It's just glossy black. The mouth itself can open up like this. It's got some pretty awesome teeth, which are also shiny and black. And on the inside, it has a weapon. That's also pretty cool. Kind of like a lot of third parties have been doing today, putting something in the mouth just to fill up the space. It's an awesome looking gun, and I like that the barrels are actually hollow. That's pretty good. The paint that's applied in these details here and on the side of the face, that's also a nice touch. Zoomed right up onto the back, you can see this is the paint damage that I was talking about. So it's got rub here, 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 and here. It's probably in a pretty easy place to touch up because it's just grey, but it's definitely down to this being bigger than what they expected. I mean, it pretty much exactly fit in the package with no slack space for when the box is stacked, and that's probably stacking the boxes is what's caused that to rub. Swamper is a headmaster, and this guy is his head, and I don't know if you can make it out there, but he's got a big grin. He's really smiling, like there's no doubt about it. He's got a huge smile on his face, so he's one happy little robot. Now he can go into the back section of the crocodile here. Just have to lift this panel up, nice and easy. And I'll show you in there, there's even a little space if you want. You can stick his feet down. So his lower legs have gone through the hole, so he's really sitting on that like a bench. You could just fold him up and fit him in the space if you didn't put the legs there, but it's more cool this way. That can close up, and you can see him looking out his window there. I love toys where you can have a little robot driving the bigger figure. I think that's awesome. We also get these two blasters. Very nice looking guns. Toyworld do some pretty nice weapons, I have to admit, and they're not symmetrical. They're mirror images of themselves with a peg on either side. So I think the point of the peg is that you can peg it together, maybe. You could have a double gun like that. I guess they kept the mirror images so you could have one on either side of the crocodile like this, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to mount them both, like not on opposite ends. The tail section also has weapons inside of it which can extend out like this. So there's one on each half, and if you like, you can have this extra pointy tail. I don't really care for it at all like that. You can disconnect these, so you can see that just pulls off, and these make two melee weapons for the robot mode, but you could do anything else with this you want. I know that these peg holes on his cheeks, I guess he could have a melee weapon on his head like that. It looks pretty derpy. I don't think it's really intended to be that way, but you do have options. Even onto the gun barrels, I guess. Yeah, you can peg this all over the place. For size comparison, this is Revolver Core next to Swamper. So he's quite huge. I show this guy because even though he's not a headmaster, he does have another little figure who's probably approximately the same size, next to someone else who's a bit more bestial, and also a Decepticon. What's this? Mastermind Creations Fortis, I think. So I like the way they look together. Pretty cool. I guess if Fortis didn't have this huge backpack on, it might be a more fair comparison. So they're not too dissimilar. He's a little bit higher, but also a little bit shorter. Okay, time to transform. So this guy has some issues. I'll cover them at the end, but transformation starts like this. So let's unpeg this tail and separate it out to get it out of the way. Now these panels up here on the back, you might want to just lift them up a little bit and then split the leg a little bit. Turn it around to the underside. Now, it's important that you get your finger here and lift that first. If you try to do that without lifting it, it stresses the plastic, as you can see here. So it's a fairly thin piece of plastic, and this has a tendency to get caught there. So anyway, do that. That gives you clearance to fold the legs around. Now listen to this. Everyone knows I like clicky joints, but this has gone a little bit too far. Looking right into the knee mechanism in here, you can see it's a spring-loaded clicky joint, and it seems like one of the criticisms Toyworld have had in the past is they don't do that. They've got plastic as the joint mechanism instead of the spring-loaded one. This guy is absolutely dripping with lubrication out of that joint. So I think that they understand it's been too tight. They've made it too tight because this is not something they've done before. And to compensate for that, there is just lube everywhere. So it's good now, but I've got a feeling that once that lube fully drips out, this toy is probably going to break. So either you're going to have to keep it lubed up or just avoid transforming it, which is a little bit of a pity. Grab the crocodile legs, just extend them down like this. Now, it's a little bit complex, but you pull this section up, rotate it around, rotate the foot 180 degrees around, then rotate the knee 180 degrees around. The foot will, there's a little spot where it will sit like this, and that's basically the robot mode foot. So if you shift that around to the underside, and there's no real peg or anything to hold it in the exact spot, you just have to make this 90 degrees, and then that's how it is. Fold this panel back down, and then on the back side, fold this around, keeping this out like that. And you want to keep that out so that there's clearance for the knee to still be posable. The inside of the leg is a little bit gappy. It doesn't look so fantastic. From the other side, I think it looks pretty cool. Next, just get these things a little bit out of the way. I mean, there's not much you can actually do with them. I'm going to raise this up. Also, get them out of the way just a little bit. It's not their final position. I just want to create clearance for the crocodile head to move down. Now, you'll find it slides in on itself, and it's hard to describe, but it kind of just condenses and forms his chest. Now, these bits are tricky. You would think that they just split and rotate down, but actually before that happens, they have to move sideways like this. Both of them have to do it. They are quite hard. Once you've moved them apart like that, then they can start rotating down. Turn the figure back around. Rotate this up like this. Now this is the front end of the shoulders. Rotate these into that position. These are going to form his robot mode arms. Grabbing the end here, you can see that if you pull that like that, there's a panel, and then the fist can travel through the panel and it closes back up on the other side. There is a kind of little tab that's meant to hold that into position, but it doesn't do a very good job. So you'll find that this often splits open like that. One of the last things left to do is just position these crocodile legs in a non-obtrusive way. They don't really have anywhere to go. They just hang out on the back. There's other things you can do with them, which I'll get to in a moment, but the basic mode is that they just sit there, and it's entirely up to you how they sit there. Grab the head, make sure his arms are down by his sides, and carefully bend him over. This is the most flimsy one they've ever made, and the thighs, like the hips, have a really high propensity to just disconnect. So you want to carefully bend it over like this. There's no locking that in. Now that I look at this, I've got two of the same leg. I can see that there's a tab here and a tab there, and it's meant to tab together. My one is... somebody's picked two of the same leg. It's not a huge deal. They look almost the same. It is an annoyance though. Anyway, okay, I can live with that. Plug it into the robot mode. Oh, and there goes one of his legs, like what I was just saying. It's extremely flimsy. Maybe that's because it's on the wrong side. That's it. So all that's left to do is grab his weapons stick them into his hands, and you're ready to go. Now I'm going to just connect this one like that. And the reason is because in his other hand, I'm going to pull off his dagger and put this here. So you've got some choices. They're 5mm pegs, so you can put any weapons you like there. He looks pretty cool. I like how glossy his visor is. It's very black. It is see-through, but very black. But I like the amount of shine on it. And look at his face there. He's got a huge smile on his face, just like on the little robot. The big robot is very happy about something. For articulation, you've got the head. I'm not going to do that. I don't want to put it back together, but the head can rotate around. You've got in and out at the shoulder, backwards and forwards. That's purely friction. Up and down, purely friction. Probably going to get loose after time. At the elbow, we've got a click that works sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't work. Again, it's mainly friction and less click. The fists can go around. We've got a plastic ratchet in and out at the hip. Friction joint backwards and forwards. An extremely hardcore knee. Kind of a hodgepodge, basically. So many different things going on here, and they don't seem very targeted. Like that really clicky joint in the knee seems like they've just done that because they wanted to experiment with a spring-loaded clicky joint. And out of all the figures I've got from them, this seems the weirdest configuration. Like, Toyworld have always got good-looking figures that have some kind of joint issue, be it a little bit flimsy. And this guy, it seems like they're just flailing around trying to figure out what's going to work the best. If I show him next to Hardbone, who also comes from Toyworld, and I really like Hardbone. I like both of these. They look fantastic. Hardbone also has joint issues. Like, he's got a friction joint for the backwards and forwards here that has very little friction and can often flop down. He's got forearms that jiggle up and down with no locking tab, and plastic-based ratchets on the hips. And the funny thing is, the plastic-based ratchets on the hips and knees in Hardbone seem to work in a more play-friendly way compared to these ratchet joints Swamp's got. They're so hardcore spring-loaded here that it feels like it's going to explode. Whereas these soft plastic ratchets seem like you could play with it quite a lot of times before something goes wrong. For comparison, here he is next to Hegemon. Everyone's taller than this poor Megatron. And they need to like get the CAD model for this and hit plus 15% and then just make it again. Swamper and Leodux. Leodux, one of the most awesome figures ever, next to Swamper. Another really cool looking figure, but I mean, this is a proper clicky joint. Now that is a real clicky joint. This is a disaster waiting to happen. Just goes to show what a little bit of, well, not a little bit, let's give them credit. Just goes to show what a lot of backwards and forwards on the design end can do, compared to maybe sometimes they just pump out figures a little bit too quickly. But let's not get too negative. Swamper has other features which I haven't shown so far. So to start off, let's pull off his hands. He's not a parts former, but this is just like a bonus that you get. So take them off, turn this around, disconnect these crocodile mode legs and just put them aside. Bend his arms back this way. Now what I'm going to do is pop these fists on the wrong sides. So what it does is make it the right side when you look at him from the back. Then you can just turn his head around. I'm going to ignore that leg flying off. Turn him around at the waist. And he looks very, very different. So if you like a more clean-cut look, like maybe a more G1 look, or if you just like the canopy, that little cockpit area, to be at the front, you could go with it this way. I personally like the crocodile head and I want it at the front, but this is cool as well. With the crocodile leg that came off, a closer inspection will show that if you've got some kind of tool, you can flip out a whole new fist. Now, it doesn't look exactly like a fist, but I think that's what it's supposed to be. And you can kind of use this as another arm. So I've turned him around now, which I should have done this before. But let's peg this onto here. What that does is just gives him another set of arms. So you can have him hold his gun maybe. I think how I like to view it is not really a set of arms, more like a weapons platform. So by having those hang out at the back there, he can grab a hold of his guns and use them to autonomously shoot something while he's busy using his hands for something else. That is also a good use of extra parts, but I think I would have just been happier if those legs condensed down into smaller blocks that you could hide away a little bit more easy at the back. But, you know, they've made the best of a weird thing, and, you know, it's cool. I like it. My final thoughts. I think, in general, I can say I like it and I recommend it. I particularly like what it is. Maybe not so much how it is done. Like, I like that it is the crocodile. I like that he's got a lot of features, and I like the smiling face, the way it looks. I like the design of the gun. I like the blockiness of it, and the concept I think I like. The execution is a little bit poor. These parts don't really peg in too securely. There's a bit too much gap down here. The paint scrape at the front, the wrong leg on the Headmaster, too much strength in the knee ratchet, not enough strength in some of the other joints. This is by no means a perfect figure. At the price, you know, it should have been perfect. I think shipped I paid $110 or something, 106. In Australian it's probably like 110, I don't know. But comparing this to Leodark's, I mean, they're worlds apart in the way that they're engineered, but it still looks good. I think the point is, taken as a whole, I guess I'm a Toyworld fan. They are a little bit weaker on the construction side compared to some. I mean, they do have sprue marks here and there and a little bit floppy joints, as I mentioned, but these are fun things. They're more on the toy end with a nod to collectors, whereas other stuff, some of the more high-end stuff, like I showed you before, the revolver core, these are collectors things with not much nod to the toy end. So all in all, I love this lineup that they've got here. I do have Grind Rod and, as I showed you before, Hegemon. I'm pretty much committed to getting everything from Toyworld now. I have their version of Brainwave in the mail very soon, so I'll be reviewing that. I'm pretty satisfied. This has been my video review for Toyworld's Swamper. I'm odeean. Thank you for watching. I really like the faces. Just check that out. I think they do a good job on faces. And even the Optimus. A lot of people don't like this Prime, but I like it a lot. I think it's good.